Okay. Sorry, there.
What story do you want to tell with this album?
Well, it's very much the story about, of course, making an album, and it's also a story about music genres, about sociology, about living in the province, about monotony, about accompanying songs, about waiting and giving back.
What has been the biggest challenge during the creation of this album?
Well, I think the actual process of making the album on the Faroe Islands, which is a very small country, which sort of has everything, but it doesn't have an established business per se. It's very much just locals and individuals who are doing everything here, and it's very different than working in a pro-London environment or something. That's you're dealing with. Let me do that again.
Yeah. Okay. What has been the biggest challenge during the creation of this album?
I think it's that you're making the album on the Faroe Islands is a very different perspective, because you're dealing with locals, not established businesses, as it were. You know, it's like it's not the LA smart musicians. It's like the guy who lives over there. He plays the violin, and you call him and say, "Hey, come and play." And that's a very different thing. And people here also have a very different idea of a calendar and time, and about the importance of something. I may think something is important for me, but people here, they just come from their own place, and I have to invite them into my world in a different way, much more human way than in a professional environment. That feels like the biggest difference with making music here as opposed to making music in a big city.
Alright, what has been the most difficult choices in the process?
Well, the most difficult choices, I think, is making everything myself, literally. Organizing everything. I didn't have a producer on this record. By making everything here on the Faroes, it seemed really hard to have a producer from the outside. So I made all the phone calls, I made every single cup of coffee, I wrote all the scores, every note, I organized everything. That was very, very hard, and there's a lot of choices to be made all the time when you're just doing them on your own.
When did you decide that the album was finished?
Well, for me, the album is more or less finished when you finish writing it. Like before you actually go into the studio, funnily enough. Like when you know what you want, and then you go into the studio, and it's sort of an execution. But it's also a wonderful madness that happens. You don't know exactly what's going to happen, but you've sort of made the groundwork for it. Like, I love this comparison with I saw this music score when I was in school. There was a score that said, it was like a funny score, and it said, in bar 152, release the penguins. And I thought that was a brilliant way of describing it. That you know that you're going to put penguins in there. You've made the choice, but you don't know exactly what it's going to be like, but you know it's going to be awesome.
What does it mean to you that this documentary opens up the process to your audience?
Well, I feel like I want to share it, and also part of this whole thing is storytelling and making people aware of all those little stories of what's behind this person. That when someone plays on a record, they also have a background. There's little stories connected to everything, and that's very much what my music is about. And this is a way of also sharing those stories and even making people aware of those stories. And I feel like also I've come to a place now where I can share some things that I do. I feel more confident about what I do than when I was 23.
What audience relation do you hope to gain from this documentary?
Well, I think that just to have an intimacy with people about showing what you're actually doing, not being afraid of showing what you do and how things are born. And I want to share that curiosity, I hope, by showing those things behind. That was a terrible answer. What did I say here? I guess I feel more confident about letting people into my world.
Why is the album called Story Music?
Well, it's very much, I've always had this problem with genres. People are always, I think every musician will tell you this, when they get asked or put into boxes, is it rock music, singer-songwriter, are you a singer-songwriter type tour? And for me, I just call my music story music because I feel that's what it is. There's also a way of putting a name on the genre. And it's very much what my music has been built on here on the Faroes. It is stories. It's more talking about that guy who lives over there. Everyone's got a background, a story. And that's what drives me when I write songs. It's little stories like that, much more than seeing someone else play or hearing music. And so it makes sense for me to call my music story music, and also to hint at a genre as a place, a platform for me